And when the light shines upon the darkness, the people shall awaken.
The internet may very well be the pinnacle of human creation and evolution during the 20th century. It connected a world that was far more separated than anyone realized, until it wasn't. The internet presented new means of information transfer through space and time. It exposed the scaffold of its technology, a network of energy and information connections that mirrors the scaffold of both the human brain and the universe itself. As above, so below. But perhaps the internet's most powerful contribution to human evolution is that it made all of the information in the world available to all the people in the world. And in that way, it shined a light upon the darkness.
Hello everybody, welcome to another Fly Deep, Rise Above experience. We are shifting perspectives. My name is Clay, and as usual, Jackie and I have another informative and entertaining experience to share with you. Our vision is to help shift the current trajectory of our world by sharing the growing awareness of who we are and where we are. We hope to help expand our individual and collective consciousness. Today, we invite you to fly deep into the dynamic properties of our DNA, and then we'll rise above into the implications of these properties in our daily lives. So sit back, strap in, and let's fly deep. Let's talk about this most amazing biological wonder that we call DNA.
But before we jump into the science-based processes we find in DNA, let's set the background for why understanding these processes are essential to transforming our world. Today, we find ourselves living in a time of extremes in terms of climate, elevated distrust in our institutions, a proliferation of human conflict. Under these conditions, we may be tempted to exercise what is called normalcy bias. In other words, we're tempted to normalize what we're seeing as just the way it is. But if we're honest with ourselves, we recognize that these extremes are causing uncertainty and chaos, which keeps us in fear and keeps us divided.
Fear programs our biology, our psychology, and even our DNA. We see the impacts of unrelenting fear and continued increases in anxiety, suicide, and both mental and physical health conditions. For the first time in 20 years, we are experiencing a decrease in life expectancy across the planet.
Fear induces stress, and unbridled stress creates disease. How we respond to fear is based on how we see ourselves and how we see the world. In other words, how we respond to fear is based on our story. The story we tell ourselves about who we are and where we are. Your story is a powerful motivator. It's your worldview. Your story determines how you live your life, how you solve your problems, how you choose your relationships, how you heal your body, how you choose your politics, and how you accept or deny your power. Change your story, change your life. Change our collective story, and change the world.
What is our traditional collective story? The traditional story, rooted in Darwinian evolution, is we live in a world of competition. We live in a world of scarcity. Someone must lose for others to win. Someone must suffer for others to thrive.
According to traditional science of evolution, we are the product of lucky biology, which is based on a random mutation of genes within DNA. The implications of lucky biology are that human life is ours to exploit. to dominate, to control, to give, and to take. The fundamental rule of lucky biology is survival of the strongest. Survival of the strongest has infected global institutions and global behavior. Even though our religions teach differently inside their temple walls, this is the thinking upon which all of our institutions are based. This is the pervasive mindset of the world today.
It turns out that competition, scarcity, and separation are false assumptions based on an obsolete story and incomplete science. The new human story gives a much different perspective, and much of that new story is written in DNA. DNA is a molecule. A molecule is created when two or more atoms attach to one another to create a pure substance. The molecule with which we are most familiar is water. 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, H2O. DNA is the blueprint of life. At its core, DNA is a molecule inside of our chromosomes, which are inside the nucleus of our cells. DNA consists of 2 intertwined strands forming a double helix. Each strand is made up of a long chain of information boxes called nucleotides. A nucleotide is the basic unit of DNA. It consists of 3 components: a sugar molecule, a phosphate group, and one of 4 chemical bases: adenine, thymine, cytosine, or guanine, or A, T, C, and G. The chemical base is what distinguishes one nucleotide from another. DNA carries the information and instructions for building proteins, the workhorses of our bodies. Proteins do most of the work in cells and are required for the structure, function, and regulation of the body's tissues and organs. The instructions for building proteins are encoded in the sequence of nucleotides along the DNA strand. The unique arrangement of nucleotides within DNA is what gives rise to genetic diversity. Each one of us has a different DNA signature. Changes in the DNA sequence are called mutations. Mutations can occur naturally or due to environmental factors. Mutations lead to variations within a species. As an information carrier, DNA is actually a high-capacity information management system. 1 gram of DNA, which is a very tiny amount that would fit on the tip of your finger, stores 215 petabytes, or 215 million gigabytes of digital data. That's ones and zeros, much like the memory chip in your computer. Scientists have stored digital data like books and such in DNA, uploaded that data to a server, and then retrieved it. They have done the same with replicated DNA, which means the information is transferred to all future generations of that particular DNA. We are literally walking USB drives, a soft technology. And each one of us holds 13.5 billion years of data, which just happens to be the age of our universe.
DNA is the purest form of our essence. Did you know that you can change it to get that magic in life that you're looking for? While our standard story of history draws no connection to DNA to ancient healing practices, curiously, the symbolism embodied in ancient cultures may be worth our consideration. Specifically, we want to look at the Caduceus. It's associated with healing and the flow of energy and information. And it's interesting how similar it is to the double helix in our DNA. The Caduceus is an ancient symbol that dates back to ancient Kemet. known today as ancient Egypt. It's associated with the Egyptian god Tahuti, also known as Thoth. Thoth is the Egyptian god of wisdom, and according to the Emerald Tablets, was the builder of the pyramids around 36,000 BC. Thoth is also recognized as the incarnation of the Roman god Mercury. The Caduceus is a short staff intertwined by two upward climbing serpents, sometimes surmounted by wings. And the Caduceus is the symbol of the Greek god Hermes, or the Roman god Mercury. Hermes in Greek mythology, or Mercury in Roman mythology, is the god of communication and the messenger of all the gods, perhaps symbolizing the information managing properties of the DNA. We may be wondering about the symbolism of the intertwined snakes. In many ancient cultures, the snakes were highly revered as symbols of wisdom and rejuvenators. According to the book of Numbers in the Old Testament, Moses used a bronze serpent on a pole to cure the people who were bitten by snakes. The snake's ability to change from a lethargic stage to one of rapid activity symbolized the power to heal from an illness. And because snakes shed their skin and grow a new one, it mirrors how the human body renews itself. Every 30 days or so, we get a new kidney, a new liver, new skin and bones, and a new heart. Every part of us becomes completely new. Old cells are replaced with a full set of new cells through replication of DNA. So when it's said you can become a new person, it's really true. Depending, of course, on how you treat yourself. A change in environment, your body structure, your mental state at different times can change the outcomes of your life completely.
The information transfer properties of DNA raise the question, from where does this data flow come? The answer is the field, the quantum energy field, the non-material world from which the material world and consciousness emerge. We are not only connected to the field, we are of the field.
Think of yourself as a wave in the ocean. The wave has always been and will always be a part of the ocean. This all-encompassing field is electromagnetic in nature, and we are literally wrinkles in the field. This is a paradigm shift, a shift from the standard story of disconnected separateness to a story of deep, intimate connectedness. This is a shift of enormous proportion. This shift is reminiscent of the major shift in consciousness that began in the latter 1600s when Copernicus' heliocentric theory removed Earth from the center of all things to a planet that orbits the sun. It took close to 300 years for the collective consciousness to move the Holy Roman Church to concede to the science. In the interim, Giordano Bruno was burned at the stake, and Galileo Galilei was imprisoned for life. The paradigm shift we face today actually draws us ever closer to the mystical themes and global spiritual traditions found in our ancient texts and tablets, indigenous teachings, and modern-day holy books. The field is where science and spirit intersect, where these typically diverging energies come to perfect balance and harmony. I firmly believe that it is this shift in consciousness that will underlie the successful change in trajectory for our current civilization. This time, we don't have 300 years to recognize the revolutionary implications of our best science. This shift, however, stands in direct conflict with the standard story of materialist science as it is taught today in most of our educational institutions. The standard story is that all things are separate and standalone, with no physical or non-physical connection between them, and that human consciousness somehow arises from the brain, which according to materialist science is so-called dead matter. No one, however, can explain how consciousness arises from dead matter. In science literature, it's called the hard problem. Guardians of the materialist philosophy are heavily invested in the standard story. Today, they are struggling for new language to maintain the story of separation in the face of what we know from quantum physics. It appears that the ancients knew much more about who we are and where we are than we credit them.
Perhaps there's more to these myths than mythology. The Caduceus design also appears to parallel the structural energies of Hindu and Buddhist Kundalini yoga. In Kundalini, there's a powerful feminine energy force called Shakti that lays dormant at the base of the spine, awaiting activation by practice awareness through meditation. This Kundalini force is depicted as a serpent resting at the base of the spine, coiled 3 times around, representing energy flow through the body. When activated, this force travels through 3 channels or nadis: the Sushumna, the Ida, and the Pingala. These nadis are identical to parts of the Caduceus. The Sushumna, like the staff, is vertical and straight, traveling in parallel motion with the spine. The Ida and Pingali channels twist together like that of the 2 snakes, intersecting at chakra energy centers. These energy centers represent the places in the body where bundles of nerves intersect. And at times, our energy centers can become blocked and require clearing, which is a typical healing of some sort. Energy clearing can also be applied to the unseen energy field that surrounds us. The Sushumna is the stabilizing and grounding core, connecting the base and the crown. Each of the chakras are situated along the columns of the Sushumna. Kundalini moves upward through this pathway. The Ida and Pingali nadis work together in polarity and duality, just like yin and yang. Ida, the channel to the left, represents feminine and lunar energy and is connected to emotions. Pingala, on the other hand, is associated with masculine and solar energy, as well as mental and physical endeavors. Kundalini energy has the potential to activate when both of these nadis are in perfect balance with each other. The Caduceus is often confused with the rod of Asclepius, who is the Greek god of medicine. The rod of Asclepius has a unique history of its own. Nevertheless, since 1902, the Caduceus symbol has been a symbol used by the Public Health Service, the U.S. Army, and the Marines for the medical sciences.
We now have the capability to extract DNA from fossils, and that fossil DNA has blown the standard story of Darwin's lucky biology out of the water. The story that we evolved from Neanderthals or other hominids is scientifically debunked. This is peer-reviewed science you haven't heard on the evening news. To the best of our current knowledge, anatomically modern humans appeared on Earth about 200,000 years ago, and we haven't changed. We emerged as the gifted beings we are relative to all other life on the planet. The extraordinary mutations between us and the hominids from which we are supposed to have come would have taken several millions of years under Darwinian evolution. There are several extraordinary mutations between us and our alleged ancestors. One of the most significant is what we call human chromosome number 2. Human chromosome number 2 contains about 1,200 genes, of which one determines our brain size. It gives us a larger neocortex, which embodies our capacity for speech, language, emotion, sympathy, empathy, compassion, self-regulation, and intentional intuition. Inconvenient to the standard story of us, peer-reviewed science now tells us that chromosome number 2 appears to be the result of an intentional ancient fusion, a genetic modification. We know this because in 2012, CRISPR gene editing technology was introduced into the scientific world. Today, we use CRISPR in medicinal and GMO industries. It is essentially a cut and paste editing technology for the genes in DNA. We are currently in a collective debate over the morality and to what extent it should be used. The timing of this fusion that resulted in chromosome number 2 aligns with the appearance of humans on the Earth 200,000 years ago. While we don't know who or what is responsible for the significant modifications to human DNA, what we do know is that there is strong evidence for ancient intervention. Let's assume there was a modification of such significance. Where would the record of such a momentous event be stored? Perhaps, given DNA's robust information management properties, the safest place to store it is in the DNA itself. Our dear best-selling author and internationally acclaimed scientist Gregg Braden thought as much and looked to see. Through the eyes of a scientist, he used a sophisticated cross-reference system to read information contained in our DNA. He began with the little-known 3,000-year-old Hebrew text called the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Creation. He correlated the elements of life referenced in the Sefer Yetzirah to the elements of life found in DNA: hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Next, he extracted the atomic mass of these elements from the periodic table of elements. Then he applied an ancient number to letters matrix to all of civilization's remaining root alphabets: cuneiform, Sanskrit, Arabic, and Hebrew. After several years of work, Gregg Braden uncovered a means to translate these elements of life to words from any of the 4 ancient root alphabets. Using Hebrew, the most stable of the root languages, this is the result. According to Gregg's system, which crosses traditional boundaries of science and spirituality, the very first line in the very first strand of DNA in all 50 trillion cells that cooperate with one another to create a human body reads, God eternal within the body. The statistical odds of randomly forming a meaningful 4-letter word from the 22 letters of the Hebrew language is 0.00042%. That's for just a single word. What we're looking at is a complete sentence.
DNA is the link to our spirituality. Our DNA and the genes that make up our DNA are literally antennae that tune us into a field of energy that underlies and connects all things. If you choose to take the leap in consciousness that our best science suggests, you recognize that you and all you see are of the field. You then become a divine being having a physical experience, a human experience. You literally become an avatar. The whole of everything becomes an illusion. Perhaps the illusion or the veil referenced in indigenous teachings, ancient texts, and holy books from across the planet.
Quality of our physical experience on the earth is very much dependent upon how we interact and connect with this field of infinite intelligence and infinite energy. Across the planet, this field is referenced by many names. In the Hindu tradition, it's called prana. In the Far East, it's called chi or ki. In our Western culture, it's the quantum field, the unified field, the divine matrix, or even the mind of God. As a child of Western Christianity, I tend to think of it as the Holy Spirit. It doesn't matter what you call it. Our awareness of connection to it can make a profound difference in both our individual and collective experiences. You begin to recognize your eternal self and the power you hold to interact with and influence this field. The field is not only divinely intelligent, but it is also a source of infinite energy for us and available to us. The days of suppression of the technologies that deliver that energy are rapidly coming to an end. We are awakening. We interact with this field every moment of our lives, whether we are conscious of it or not. When we're conscious of it, we can influence it to our best advantage. We can even rewrite generational trauma stored in DNA. Wow, that was a pretty long one. What do you think?
Yeah, it was long, but it was deep.
We went deeper than we'd gone before. It feels like a good time to go deep. Like it's time to do some introspection, re-examine these stories we've been told for thousands of years.
Between the almost daily breakthroughs in science and archaeology, the story of us is changing. In archaeology, the anomalies that are so many now, they're telling the new story.
And not to mention the UFO phenomenon. Did you know that almost all the religions across the globe talk about deities who promise to return to Earth?
I don't know if they're deities, but there are a lot more of them showing up over the past 80 years.
Yeah, ever since the bomb.
And a whole lot more in the past 20 years. We're hearing about UFOs almost daily now.
Well, we certainly live in a magical place. One of the things we wanted to show you guys in this video is exactly that. And faster, our science is unraveling some of that magic, and it's giving us a new way to look at ourselves. We only scratched the surface of the magical properties of DNA, but hopefully we've made the point. If you want to know more of the magic of DNA and meet Gregg Braden, please be sure to find the links in the description below the video.
The other point is that we're all connected. Imagine a world where our children are taught in both science and spirituality that we're all connected.
We'll continue to explore our story through science, archaeology, and even spirituality where these disciplines intersect. After all, if we don't know who we are, how do we know who we can be?
Yes. And because we're flying deeper now, we want to open up to your comments or questions. We'll make every effort to respond and maybe even make a video based on a question.
Be respectful in your comments and questions. We want a safe space for all who are searching for the best version of truth that we can get to. In our next video, we'll explore a version of truth extracted from the Sumerian tablets, which go back as far as 2164 BC. We're putting more time and energy into the videos now, so expect our next video in 2 to 3 months.
Until then, thank you for spending your time with us. Don't neglect your inner space, and always remember, love is the fundamental force of creation.
So keep a smile in your heart and share it with everyone you know.
Goodbye, everybody. Namaste.